And a good afternoon on this Friday, January 2nd, 2026. Happy New Year to one and all, everybody. Grass is sitting in for the K-Ster here on ESPN New York. Welcome to a new year. Hope everybody had themselves a great holiday. You were safe. You were healthy. You're back with us here in 2026. I had the old cold/flu thing that ran through the house during the holidays, which we're just coming out from now, so hope everybody was able to avoid that as much as possible, but we are here nonetheless, and we get set to embark on a football weekend here. And as far as the two locals are concerned, if you're a fan of the Jets, you're a fan of the Giants, you're probably approaching this weekend and muttering to yourself something along the lines of, finally, right? Like, good riddance, out with the old, in with the new, because let's face it, if you're a Jet fan and you're a Giant fan, and I'm sure both organizations feel as such, as soon as the clock hits zero in their respective games on Sunday, Giants playing host, of course, to the Cowboys. Jets will be up in Buffalo. Thanks, NFL, for a 4:25 kickoff this afternoon, the final game at Highmark Stadium. As soon as the clock hits zero, it is effectively the 2026 football season for both of these teams. Giants, we know, are going to be in search of a new head coach. Contrary to popular opinion, they may or may not be searching for a new general manager as well, but you know that there's going to be some change to the roster, and over in Florham Park, you know that there's going to be a lot of change to that roster, starting with the quarterback position, the most important position in all of sports, and that's something that we at least think that the Giants have in their favor going into 2026. And whoever the head coach is going to be, you'd like to think that Jackson Dart is going to be featured prominently, because you could point to a lot of things that went wrong for the Giants this year, and I don't think the quarterback is one of those. You know, he has been one of the few bright spots for this football team, and I don't think that there's a Giant fan that would have any sort of issue whatsoever going into next year if Jackson Dart is going to be your quarterback, and then you hope for year on and year on after that. Jets, it's an entirely different story. But then there's also this thing that you have to sort out here on Sunday, and it will finally be sorting it out, because we've talked about it, it seemed like, for weeks and weeks and weeks, and that's the draft. And it means a little bit more, of course, to the Jets, because the Jets hope to maybe find their next quarterback of the present/the future in this draft, whereas the Giants, because you have Jackson Dart, you figured that you don't have to worry as much about finding that guy. And the Giants, well, they didn't exactly do the Jets a favor last week in Vegas by beating the Raiders, because you would have probably preferred the Giants to have the number one pick, not the Raiders, because Giants got a quarterback already, right? Giants aren't going to use the number one pick if they have it on a QB. They probably would look to trade the pick and entertain as many offers as possible. Raiders, you know, are going to be picking first overall, and they're going to have to take a quarterback, whether that's Fernando Mendoza, whether it's Dante Moore. I mean, you know, Trinidad Chambliss last night put on a show for Ole Miss. And, of course, you know, the hot take society that we are, the microwave immediate reaction society. You got people already throwing his name into the mix for being a, you know, high draft choice in the upcoming draft, which is, I think, a little bit premature here. So we'll pump the brakes on that one. But nevertheless, you know, the Jets have no path to get to the number one pick unless Darren Muji is able to pick up the phone and call the Raiders and offer up the earth, the moon, and the stars. And if the Raiders are willing to be receptive to that, and I'm not necessarily sure they are, because, again, I think they need the quarterback. I think they'd like to get a guy like Mendoza into the program. You know that Brady's going to have a big influence and a big say as to what they do. So the chances of the Jets getting the number one pick probably are remote at this point. But I actually think, and I'm going to sit here today over the next couple of hours and talk you into the fact that I think that there's a decent chance that the Jets go to bed on Sunday night with the number two pick in the draft. Because call me crazy, you know, call me a cockeyed optimist, whatever you want to say, I actually think that there's a better than good chance the Giants win this game on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. I do. You know, I really think the Giants could win this game. Few reasons. First and foremost, Giants won a game last week, right? Out in Vegas that they didn't have to win. Right? Giants could have had a path to the number one pick, but you know what? They went out there and they proved that we are not going to lower ourselves to where the Raiders are, where they're in full tank mode, and we're putting guys on IR that are capable of playing, that just practiced the week before. We are actually going to go out there and give it the old college try to win a football game, and they did that. Okay, so the Giants are in no way, shape, or form in pack-it-in mode. That's number one. Number two, the Cowboys, despite the fact that Brian Schottenheimer has said this week that our guys are going to play, we're going to play to win the game, he's slowly but surely kind of backtracked off of that and changed his wording over the last couple of days. Dak is going to play, but we're going to be smart with it. And even Dak, when he met the media the other day, kind of let you know that there's no way he's playing 4 quarters. And I think a lot of other regulars for the Dallas Cowboys that maybe are banged up are not going to be playing 4 quarters. That's number 2. And number 3, let's face facts here. Put yourself in Mike Kafka's shoes right now, right? And any other assistant coach that is on that Giants coaching staff. Unfortunately, as is the way the business works, there's a better than good chance that you're not going to be back with the football team next year. So why would you care in any way, shape, or form about draft positioning for a franchise that you may not even be employed by once the draft rolls around in April, right? So what incentive do the Giants coaches have to go out there and try not to win this football game? It makes no sense whatsoever. If I'm Mike Kafka, I'm going out there and I'm going to try to coach the best game that I've ever coached or am humanly capable of coaching in that body of his, along with all the other assistant coaches, whether it's Charlie Bullen, the defensive coordinator, trying to prove that, he has a shot to be a defensive coordinator on somebody's staff next year. Whether that's in college, whether it's in the pros, wherever it is. But, go out there and call the best game you ever called in your life. I don't care that Dak Prescott might not play for 4 quarters. Doesn't matter who the Cowboys have out there at quarterback. Go out there and set the sack record for crying out loud. Unleash Abdul Carter. All these giant defenders that, unfortunately, it seems like the same flu bug and everything that's been running over North America is running through the Giants' locker room this past week. So you got guys that haven't even been on the practice field. You hope that they could play on Sunday. But nevertheless, go out there and try to win this football game. The resume, the tape, all those things also play into consideration for the coaches in addition to just the players. Let the coaches go out there and prove to some other organization out there that, yeah, we went out there and we approached this season like we were in it to win it to the very end, even if we knew that we weren't coming back. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. So add all those factors together. I think the Giants got a shot at winning this football game on Sunday. Therein lies the fact that if that happens, well, Giants move past the Jets. And then all the Jets have to do when they take the field in Buffalo at 4:25 on Sunday is, well, to put it mildly, Jets just have to go out there and basically do the same thing they've been doing for the past month. Simple as that. And I'm sure that the guys that they put out on that field are going to try like hell to win the game. And they're going to go out there and, try to put a good showing on tape for either their place on the roster next year or somebody else's roster or somebody else's practice squad. But, let's face facts. What is this Jets team that they're going to be putting out on the field on Sunday? Really and truly. What's this team that they've been putting out on the field for the last month? Are they capable of beating the Buffalo Bills? And I know that Josh Allen's not going to play for 4 quarters, right? He's dealing with a little bit of a foot. I was watching Sean McDermott earlier today, and he basically said that, Josh is going to be limited today, but he should be good to go for the game. But he's not playing 4 quarters. But the Bills are going to be wearing the old red throwback helmets. It's going to be the final game ever at Highmark Stadium. You're going to have all former Bills dignitaries of the past. They're going to be on hand for that game. It's going to be a big celebration and a party in Western New York. Hell, you might even have some snow falling from the sky to cap off the festivities. I don't think the Bills want to lose the game. The Bills can also move up their seeding potentially, depending on what happens with a couple of those other games. They can move up to 5th in the AFC, which, by the way, if you're asking me, finishing as the 5 seed in the AFC is not the worst thing in the world, because if you're the 5, you're playing the AFC North champion. And whether that's the Steelers, whether that's the Baltimore Ravens, doesn't matter who it is, I'll take my chances with one of those teams in the first round. Why not? Try to beat a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs in round 1, or a Baltimore team that, for some reason they completely forget about the fact that Derrick Henry is still on their team. They remembered the other night in Green Bay, which was nice, as we got to the end of 2025, that they remembered that they still have a battering ram in their backfield, and they kept feeding them the ball, and they won a football game, ironically enough. But Lamar Jackson is not healthy. Lamar Jackson is not even close to the guy who was one of the most dynamic players in the National Football League, and we've seen that all season long. So, point being, I would have no problems going on the road if I'm a team like the Buffalo Bills and wanting to take my chances with either one of those 2 teams in the first round, as opposed to just sitting there as the 7th seed and having to take my chances at whether it might be Denver or New England or Jacksonville, or I'd rather go on the road to Pittsburgh and Baltimore. But the bottom line is, whether it's 3 wins, whether it's 4 wins, whatever the Giants and Jets finish up with, I mean, we're going to look back at this 2025 football season as clearly one of the worst ones we've ever had to experience as fans in this city. It's just, it was ungodly. I mean, what more can you say? And we're coming from a place where we have had to watch some real bad football over the last decade. I mean, the Jets and the Giants have basically brought up the bottom of the barrel in the National Football League for the last 10 years. And you sit there and you scratch your head and you say, how? Right? And why? I'm sitting there the other night and I'm pouring through, the game notes for the weekend, with the NFL, the one that the league sends out. They're talking about like the playoff picture and all these other things and, the different type of statistics and so on and so forth, year in and year out, all the turnover in the National Football League. 5 teams, for example, have already qualified for the playoffs after missing the postseason last year. Since 1990, we're talking 36 consecutive seasons, at least 4 teams every year have qualified for the playoffs that didn't make it the year before. Carolina can even join that mix if they win, of course, on Saturday, so you could have 6 teams. Like all this different turnover. You got teams that go from last to first. The Chicago Bears were in last place in the NFC North for the last 3 years, for crying out loud. They win their division. Same thing with the New England Patriots, right? 49ers, I know that they had a lot of stuff going on. They finished in last place. The Carolina Panthers finished in last place. These teams can win division titles. We're not sitting here asking for a division title, right? I mean, we're just sitting here asking for competitive football late in the season. How about sitting at the table on Thanksgiving with your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors, people maybe that just might wander in off the street, whoever it might be, and having a genuine football conversation about meaningful games that need to be played in this town from now until the end of the season? Is that too much to ask? Is it? Because it's not to the 30 other teams in the NFL, but it just seems like in this city, they can't figure it out. And I know that it wears on the fan base. It has to. And then when you sit there and you see the situation with the Giants, and look, whatever's going to happen on Sunday happens. But you're going to be in the market again for a new head coach. That's not the way you want to begin your offseason as a fan. You don't want to have to go through this carousel again. But then on the other hand with the Giants, you sit there and all the reports that you're hearing is that Joe Schoen is safe. And everybody that's kind of been having conversations with the New York Giants are led to believe that, yeah, Joe Schoen is going to be back. And he's going to be safe. And I'm not sitting here trying to kick anybody to the curb. And you don't want to see anybody out of a job. Lives are affected, families and all those things. But what has he done to justify coming back? Right? I mean, you know the numbers as well as I do. 6-27 the last 2 years. If you're running any sort of business, company, whatever it might be, and that's your output over a 2-year period, how do you wake up with the conclusion of, let's run it back? Let's run it back. I like the direction this program is heading. How do you think that? Right? How is that what you come up with when all is said and done? And it got me thinking. Remember Jerry Reese? And I know that Jerry Reese towards the end had his flaws as a general manager, and he was on the job a long time running the New York Giants. But Jerry Reese won 2 Super Bowls as the GM. Right? That 2007 draft, he knocked it out of the park, which helped them win that Super Bowl in 2007 and then have a lot of good years, of course, to follow, win another championship a few years later. But Jerry Reese was shown the door a year after he had an 11-5 season with the Giants in 2016. And I know the next year was a disaster and, they wanted a clean house and maybe it had run its course. I get it. But this is the same organization. And the last time I checked, it's still the same people making the decisions. So how do you rewind about 10 years ago and say that Jerry Reese, with all the success that he had, 2 Super Bowls, had an 11-5 season the year before you kicked him out of the building, and then what criteria necessarily has Joe Schoen shown you that he deserves another run at this thing? With another opportunity to start fresh with a new head coach whose visions may or may not be aligned. And I know when Joe Schoen did his press conference at the bye week, he was asked a question about, well, do you think that if you're still employed, is that going to scare away other coaching candidates who maybe won't want to work with somebody that maybe they don't have the same vision and direction as? And he said, no, it hasn't hurt our process at all. This job is still very desirable. Yeah, it's still very desirable because, again, there's only 32 of these in the entire world. If you want to be a head coach in the National Football League, you know what? Chances are you're not going to take over a program that's built to win right away because chances are those coaches keep their jobs. It's only the bad teams, more often than not, that are in the market for new coaches. Or else why the hell would you want to go fire your coach if you're a winning program? Unless the coach walks away on his own, which has happened, or retires, or rides off into the sunset, whatever it might be. And this isn't an exercise, guys, talking about if Jerry Reese was wronged when they showed him the door a decade ago. That's not what this is about. It's more in tune with what has Joe Schoen done to convince you that he should be back as the general manager, because this is another huge offseason for this football team. It's a big one for both teams. And it seems like, unfortunately, we've been going through this process, it seems like every couple of years in this town. And not a lot of happy Sundays to show for it, really and truly. We'll do a lot of football today, as you would expect. You're going to get some good games this weekend. Look, we'll give you the games that actually mean something. There's 2 good ones tomorrow, of course, with Carolina and Tampa Bay, and then Seattle and San Francisco. Those have some meaning. The Sunday night game with Baltimore and Pittsburgh has some meaning. You know what I find kind of funny? So ESPN gets the 2 games tomorrow, okay? NBC gets the game on Sunday night. CBS and Fox got a big old lump of coal in their stocking for Week 18. And then I'm seeing these commercials every 2 seconds on television with Jason Kelce in like a room with padded walls or something in some, scientist laboratory for the NFL Sunday ticket. And he's all excited because you can order the Sunday ticket for Week 18 for $5 if you don't have it already. It's not even worth $5. All the games that mean something, right? You're getting them for free anyways. They're on ESPN tomorrow, and it's on NBC on Sunday night. All the other games on CBS and on Fox on Sunday, you really have to love football to watch. They mean nothing. Unless you get excited about a team that needs to win a division or something like that, which we kind of know is going to happen anyways. But $5, I mean, I understand, like the NFL thinks that they're doing you a favor. They should be giving that to you for free for Week 18. The NFL's got enough money to begin with. They print money. And they're going to try to milk $5 from everybody to watch horrible football on CBS and Fox. And we imagine somebody who lives in, North Dakota this weekend, but is an NFL fan. And he's thinking about $5 and he's looking at these slate of games. Giants-Cowboys. Jets-Bills. Where do I sign? Here's my $5. Why would they pay for that? Right? I don't know if they still do it because I don't get the Sunday ticket anymore because, now that it's on YouTube, there's no point in me paying for it because I do the Jets and I'm not even really home on Sundays. But I remember back in the day, they used to give you the Sunday ticket for free for Week 1, like a free preview for people that didn't know what it was, I guess, and, try to entice them into buying a subscription or something like that. But if they did it then, why don't they do it now for Week 18? Like, it's a bunch of garbage that you're getting on Sunday afternoon. The only games that matter you're getting for free anyways. You might as well just throw your fans a bone, the ones that bend over hand and fist and buy all the merchandise and travel to all the events and the tickets and the ratings through the roof. Give them some free. I mean, these are glorified preseason games on Sunday, are they not? They're glorified preseason games. Look at some of the quarterbacks and some of the guys that are going to be on the field on Sunday, and they want you to pay $5 for this? No thanks. Jets-Bills $4.25, by the way. Pre-game, $2.25. All right, 800-919-3776. That is a telephone number. We'll do a lot of football today, as you would expect. Let's say hi to our good buddy Artie in Brooklyn, who's starting us off here on ESPN New York. Art, Happy New Year, my friend. How are you?
Happy New Year. I watched more college football yesterday than I did like the last 5 years. Just to see who was our quarterback.
I wonder why, Art.
I'm analyzing Mendoza's stride. heck am I doing?
You're sitting there.
You forgot
Art,
to mention the most important game on Sunday.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you're sitting there, and every other Jet fan in America is watching those games yesterday like they're Mel Kiper Jr., like you said, with the clipboard, and you're analyzing everything between Mendoza, Dante Moore, even Trinidad Chambliss, anybody, to see if they could come in and save the franchise.
Here's what I want to know, okay?
Yeah.
If it's so true that Aaron Glenn's job is on the line next year, right? Why the heck would he take one of these guys? Why would he take one? Because there's no way, I don't care who it is, there's no way any of those guys are going to perform any better than Mac Jones. And I know you're not crazy about Mac Jones. The whole difference is that he's got experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's potentially not going to be better than maybe like Mendoza and Moore and even Simpson. The potential is there. But that's the mistake. Is that if you don't have confidence in Glenn right now from what he's seen, and you're going to fire him because he wins 4 games next year, right? Then fire him now. Has he shown you anything that he could be the right guy? I mean, when you're making comments, like you picture Bill Parcells saying, hey, you know what? They ran really well out leaving the field. What the flip is that, dude? That we don't have any blocked field goals. I mean, this is so coach height all over again. And I'm praying that he's the right guy. He talked like Tomlin for the whole preseason. I love that he went and he looked the part. But then when it came down to crunch time, he was coach height. That's what he was. So,
Art, here's what it was. Art, here's what it was. And I thank you for the call as always. Obviously, the wins-losses record is nothing to write home about. Did the Jets underachieve maybe what we all thought and hoped they could be this year? Even just to show you, to be an average football team, a well-coached football team, a team that doesn't make mistakes. Yeah, we kind of put that as the glass half full back in the summertime, that maybe that's what this team can achieve to be. You take a flyer on Justin Fields, see if you can maybe bring out the best football in him. None of those things happen. All right, none of those things happened. They got off out of the gates 0-7, and then once they were 0-7, they basically lit a torch to it, right? They had a fire sale. They traded off their 2 best defensive players, and look, on paper, they did really, really well with those trades, right? So that's the one place I think I would start. As somebody trying to sell to Jet fans, okay, what kind of confidence do you have in this regime moving forward? Start with the trades that were made in the middle of the season, because they traded 2 guys. One of them they just signed to a contract extension, by the way, in Sauce, to 2 teams that were making a run for it this year. When the Colts acquired Sauce Gardner, they thought that they could maybe go to a Super Bowl. Now they're not even going to the playoffs. And what did they win, 1 game since that trade? Cowboys didn't even make the playoffs with Quinnen Williams. Okay? Those teams don't get to bring those draft picks back because they didn't fulfill whatever they thought they were going to achieve this year. Jets get to keep those picks, right? And they can maybe turn those into something that will help this team moving forward in the future. But you had to do it. Somebody told me yesterday, because I went out there yesterday, and from week 1 to where they are right now, there are 21 guys on the active roster that were not even a part of this team at the beginning of the season. 21 guys. It's the NFL. There's not supposed to be that much turnover. I'll be the first one to admit, I was even saying this to somebody yesterday. Like, I'm there every single week, right? I'm in the room. I see the guys, know a lot of the guys, whatever. I walk into that room the last few weeks, and if it was like a game show, like you couldn't pick them, like the old saying, you couldn't pick them out of a lineup, that would essentially be me. I don't even know who the hell these guys are. This is week 18. I mean, this is the final month of the NFL season. The locker room almost looks like it does for training camp when you have like 100 guys in there and you know that most of them aren't going to stick around. Like, that's how much turnover has been done to this roster, and they decided to do it not with necessarily the intention of building it into a contender in the second half of the season, but almost just getting through the season and maybe finding a diamond in the rough or 2 as far as youth is concerned. But they realize it's going to be all about this season. They're going to have a ton of cap space. They will spend. And I think specifically on the defensive side of the ball, this defense is going to look night and day from a personnel standpoint from what you saw this year to what you're going to see week 1 in 2026. They are going to spend. You got all this draft capital to use. Whether a quarterback comes out of it, we shall see. Maybe they got something up their sleeves that they're going to work on a trade or something with a guy who's on another team right now in the NFL that they identify. They want to go the veteran route if they're not in love with, let's say, these quarterback prospects. We'll see. And all that stuff is going to be sorted out, of course, over the next couple of months. But here's one thing we know. And you might tell me I'm full of you-know-what. And if you're a fan and you've been beaten down and all you've dealt with is losing for however many years, you have every right to feel that way. But all I can tell you is that in the NFL, it doesn't take long. You know, I understand, and maybe this is a bad example, but I'm just telling you, all right? I know the New England Patriots had a quarterback already. They hired a new coach, but they also went out there and spent a boatload of money in free agency. They spent more money last offseason than any team in the National Football League, and they did pretty well signing these guys. They brought some dudes in here who could play, all right? I'm not saying the Jets are going from, the second pick to the Super Bowl next year, but they have an opportunity to really provide an influx of talent to this roster next year. Then and only then, I think it's fair you can judge the head coach and how he deals with at least an NFL caliber roster out on the football field next season in 2026. Give him a quarterback that you can actually win games with consistently, that you don't have to maybe tinker with your game plan week in and week out, and have enough talent to where you're going to be able to compete. Because what's happened over the last month, I know that it's ugly. I know that it hasn't been pretty. I know that they're setting records for futility and all those things, but you can't judge a head coach over what you've seen for the last 5-6 weeks. I mean, you've seen all the things written. It's literally a practice squad / JV type roster in a lot of spots, especially defensively, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, that stuff, like what they're running out there each week on defense is what you see like in the third or the fourth quarter in a preseason game. How you expect to compete? 800-919-3776. More of your calls. Quick timeout. We will get into all the college football from the last couple of days. Games haven't been all that exciting, but there were a couple of guys certainly that opened some eyes that could factor in prominently to what happens at draft time come the spring here in just a few months. Grassa sitting in for Kay here on this Friday. First show of 2026. How about it on ESPN New York?
FanDuel Friday is turning it up with NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, FanDuel is dropping limited-time specials to get you in the zone. Boost, bonuses, surprises, all designed to bring that Friday energy. This isn't just another promo. It's your weekly pregame NBA Happy Hour every Friday, 6 to 7:30 Eastern, only on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, FanDuel is dropping limited-time specials to get you in the zone. Boost, bonuses, surprises, all designed to bring that Friday energy. Visit FanDuel.com/local to grab your reward before the clock expires. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirements, and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
You live for this. The wins, the losses, the slam dunks, and the buzzer beaters. The dream that this is your team's year. Hope. It's what keeps you coming back. So you represent with anticipation and with pride. Because when everything's on the line, your support means everything. That's why the NBA Store is here to support you. Check out the largest selection of official NBA gear at NBAstore.com. A Fanatics experience.
Knicks fans, it's time to hit the court with BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. Download the BetMGM app today and add a boost of excitement to every New York game day with same-day parlays, live betting options, player props, boosted odds specials, and the best daily promotions in the business. With the BetMGM app at your fingertips, you can experience the excitement of betting on your favorite players and get in on all the blue and orange action as your New York Knicks drive the lane. Find out why basketball fans love BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. BetMGM. Make it legendary. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 years of age or older to wager and physically present in New York and New Jersey only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Gambling problem in New York? Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. For New Jersey, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Think Verizon, the best 5G network, is expensive? Think again. Bring in your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Now, what to do with your unwanted bills? Ever seen an origami version of the Statue of Liberty? Jokes aside, Verizon has the most ways to save on phones and plans where everyone in the family can choose their own plan and save. So bring in your bill to your local Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Rankings based on root metric true score report dated 1H2025. Your results may vary. Must provide a postpaid consumer mobile bill dated within the past 45 days. Bill must be in the same name as the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms apply.
All the way over Barzell, score!
New York Islanders hockey is back at UBS Arena, and it's time to bring the family and make some noise. With more afternoon games this season, the Islanders have special kids-themed games and activities for young fans. Play games pregame at the park and head inside for fun on the concourse and on the ice. Tickets for the 2025-26 season are on sale now. Get your tickets at NewYorkIslanders.com.
If you've been injured in an accident that wasn't your fault, then you need a lawyer who knows New York's unique personal injury and workers' compensation laws. At the Parisman Firm, they have decades of experience handling all types of accident cases and a proven track record of delivering huge results. Their team has already recovered nearly $1 billion for injured New Yorkers. From construction to car accidents and slips and falls, they've got you covered. Call the Parisman Firm now at 718-WORKERS, where your case is their cause. Get the justice you deserve today.
New York Presbyterian treats more heart patients than any other hospital in New York. From common to complex conditions, our cardiologists and heart surgeons are pioneers in advanced heart care, leading the way in minimally invasive treatments for faster recovery times. Find a doctor at nyp.org/heart. Stay amazing. New York Presbyterian. New York Presbyterian Hospital based on U.S. News and World Report 2025 to 2026 Cardiology, Heart, and Vascular Surgery Rankings.
Listen up, football fans. You never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in New Jersey. T&Cs apply. In-app only.
Hey, fans! Welcome back to Fansville's Cheers and Tears. Oh. Okay, so like everybody deals with losing, right? To a rival on a last-second field goal. Whatever, it's fine. I'm totally fine. But I cope with losing with an ice-cold Dr. Pepper. Those 23 flavors are like so delicious. They totally wash away the pain of your college football team taking a big fat L. College football. It's a pepper thing.
It's your last chance to get Disney Plus, Hulu, and the ESPN app for one incredible price. With the ESPN app, you can watch some of football's biggest postseason games, including epic bowl matchups, the College Football Playoff, and NFL Wild Card and Divisional Playoff games. Get it all for $29.99 a month for 12 months. Visit Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPNBundle.com for details. Ad-supported plan auto-renews at regular price. Currently $35.99 a month. Subject to change unless canceled. Ends January 5th, 2026. Terms apply.
All right, Dan Graca hanging out with you here on ESPN New York. First show, 2026. We have made it. 800-919-3776. It is also game time, which is brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey, because when it's game time, it is Tully time. I'll tell you this. You have not had to suffer for any lack of sports during this vacation, specifically when it comes to the football, but just like everything intertwined. It's really, I mean, if you have kind of been, bedridden or had to be at home or whatever, I know the weather stinks too. You don't even want to go outside because it's so darn cold. But, if you had to, there is a ton of stuff to keep you company, just like tonight as well, because it's 7 o'clock. Unless you're a glutton for punishment, the Nets are in Washington to play the Wizards. They already scheduled the game, so they'll turn the lights on. They'll unlock the doors if you want to watch that. Knicks are going to host the Hawks. No Trae Young, by the way. at Madison Square Garden tonight as the Knicks try to get back in the win column. Our coverage begins right here on ESPN 880 at 7 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, and this is where my attention will be focused, the Rangers down in Miami. That is right, Lone Depot Park. Texted a buddy of mine who's there covering the Winter Classic. I said, have you seen any of the body remains of the 2025 Mets buried underneath all that ice? Because that is where the Mets' demise happened that final weekend. Winter Classic against the Florida Panthers. Coverage begins at 7:30 on 1050 ESPN. I will have the pregame, postgame, intermission festivities for you. We have a lot of cool stuff planned. You're going to hear from Gary Bettman as well. Give a little bit of a sneak peek into that, so looking forward to it. And that is Game Time, brought to you by Tullamore Dew, the original triple distilled, triple blended, and triple cask matured Irish whiskey. Be sure to grab a Tullamore Dew or try the new Tullamore Dew Honey. During today's action, glasses up to enjoying Tullamore Dew responsibly. So the Rangers tonight, and real quick, and I don't want to go off on a hockey tangent too much here, but I was just talking to Ray during the break. So they officially unveiled the Olympic rosters today. And a couple Rangers made Team USA, of course, with Vinny Trocheck and JT Miller. Adam Fox inexplicably was left off, which does not make any – you can't tell me. The guy's one of the top 5 defensemen in the NHL, regardless of nationality, when he's right. I mean, I don't know how you sit there and say that he's not qualified to be on Team USA, but whatever. But then also with Team USA, and I understand this guy's maybe not a household name to hockey fans, but Dallas Stars have a guy by the name of Jason Robertson. And Jason Robertson in 2025, from Jan 1 to December 31st, the calendar year, no American scored more goals or had more points than Jason Robertson, and he did not get a call for Team USA. Like, what is the thought process then? I mean, are they trying to win? You're just like picking guys that you like, that you have a relationship with? Because otherwise, I thought you're getting on the plane, you're going over there to Milan, you're living in the Olympic Village and whatnot because you're actually trying to win a medal, right? You pick the guys that help you win games. And, how do you have the leading American scorer in the NHL for the last 12 months and he's not on the team? But whatever, there's, smarter people than me, I guess, behind these decisions. Anyway, we're talking football at 800-919-3776. Let us say hi to Vinny in Staten Island. He's up next here on ESPN New York. Vin, Happy New Year. How are you?
Dan, how are you doing, buddy? How are you? How's everything? Happy New Year.
Same to you, Vin. Things are good.
All
What's
right,
going on?
Dan, they have to get rid of Aaron Glenn. I mean, it's just going to be the same thing next year. It's going to be a crap show. It's going to be the same thing next year. What the Jets need to do, sign 2 veteran quarterbacks. My choices would be Jameis Winston and Kyle Trask. You bring them both in there. With the number 3 pick, you pick the receiver out of Ohio State to complement Garrett Wilson. You pick a quarterback with the other first-round pick, and you sign Kyle Pitts in free agency. You got something right there. The Jets got to start thinking out of the box. They are not going to develop Dante Moore. They're not going to get Mendoza. You go get Jameis Winston and Kyle Trask, you'll be fine at quarterback. Number 1 pick, number 3 pick, wide receiver, then you get a quarterback, and then you go from there. All right, that's my plan for the Jets, but they don't think that way. Kyle Trask is ready to be a star in this league. Trust me. All he needs is a chance. And if he can't do it, Jameis Winston's right there. He will win you football games. All right, that's all I got to say. Dan, have a happy New Year, and I love your show. I love you. I love your show. You're the best.
Vin, I love you. Thank you very much. Here's what I'll say, and I say this actually comes from a place of genuine love. Okay, it's the new year. New approach, new attitude, good tidings, good spirits, all these things. I say this with peace and love. Vinny's got to get off this Kyle Trask thing because it's almost ruining his legacy as a caller. And Vinny's a good fan. He's a loyal fan, all these things, but he's got to get off the Kyle Trask thing. Like, we used to, laugh at his expense in the past because he would constantly be beating that drum, Kyle Trask. Kyle Trask is not even – I don't even think he's on an NFL roster this year. He might be on somebody's practice squad. I would not go down in flames as a caller on this radio station at the expense of Kyle Trask. If you want to have, a hot take on somebody who's actually established and say, I believe in this guy, okay, but, not Kyle Trask. Come on. Remember, in a league where teams will do anything to win, and the quarterback play this year, they have gone through, I mean, think about some of the guys who are playing and starting games right now in the NFL. Like the guy in Kansas City down to the third string. None of these teams have taken a flyer on Kyle Trask. You got to get over the Kyle Trask thing. Here's where I will agree with Vinny. I actually think the Jets should take a page from the Giants' approach this past year when it comes to the quarterback, meaning 2 veterans and a rookie, like Vinny just said. It can't be Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is under contract with the Giants for another year. So unless the Giants cut him, right, which I don't think is going to happen because Jameis is a good soldier. You know, he can still obviously play a game or two here and there. I don't think Jameis Winston's going to be free, but I do think the Jets need to sign 2 veteran quarterbacks and then draft the guy, because I'll say this. And right now, we don't know where they're going to be picking. In all probability, I'm going to say they're picking 2 or they're picking 3. Assume Fernando Mendoza goes to the Raiders at number 1. If Dante Moore is sitting there at number 2, you take him. But Dante Moore is not a guy that is a plug-and-play week 1 starter. He's not. So that means he comes in, he learns, he gets as much experience as possible, and then you turn the season over to those 2 veterans to begin the year. And about Aaron Glenn, look, the jury is still out. It's the best way to put it. When you are in the verge of going, let's face it, 3-14, and the games have unfolded the way they have, as ugly a fashion as they've gone this year, you know what? Nobody should feel safe. Nobody should feel safe. But he's going to have another opportunity next year. On paper, he's going to take a better roster with him in all probability into next season than he did going into this season. And if he doesn't win next year, well, then you could be looking at another change. You know, I don't ever want to put these 2 people in the same sentence, but I will say, just keeping it real with you, that I'm old enough to remember the Kotite debacle, those 2 years. And the first year was kind of eerily similar in the sense that in 1995, the Jets went 3-13 with Kotite. But that year, they stripped the roster down for the most part. And they were essentially rebuilding. And they went 3-13. And if you remember, going into 1996, that offseason, they won the offseason, right? They drafted Keyshawn Johnson first overall. They spent like drunken sailors in free agency. Neil O'Donnell at quarterback, just coming off the Super Bowl from the Steelers, even though he threw 2 interceptions. But Jumbo Elliott, David Williams, 2 bookend tackles, Jeff Graham, a starting wide receiver. I mean, several other guys. Like, they spent a lot of money to where going into the season, you looked at that team on paper and said, okay, they're going to be a little bit better. And they were even worse. So my point is, never say never, but just because you go out there and spend doesn't mean that it's going to win you games on Sundays when ultimately that's what it all comes about. Kyle Trask, by the way, is currently the emergency 3rd-string quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. And remember, they're down a quarterback already in Michael Penix, right? So think about that. Like, he didn't even, find himself even getting up even a little bit closer to playing even without Penix. That's not good. Not good. 800-919-3776. More of your football conversation. Remember, we're rolling until 3 o'clock today. Then it's going to be Ty Butler and Jake Assman hanging out with you here on ESPN New York.
From the regular season to the Super Bowl, ESPN New York is your destination for football. We've got crazy fans.
If the Giants somehow beat the Cowboys, I'm going to take a dump on your head.
You can feel good because you're a damn football team. Expert analysis.
Marcus Spears joins us now, ESPN NFL analyst Damian Woody.
Mel Kiper Jr.
The Hall of Famer Steve Young.
He's kind of our resident general manager, Louis Riddick.
We got Mike Tannenbaum right now.
And all your fantasy and wagering needs. This is ESPN New York. We are football.
Knicks fans, it's time to hit the court with BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. Download the BetMGM app today and add a boost of excitement to every New York game day with same-day parlays, live betting options, player props, boosted odds specials, and the best daily promotions in the business. With the BetMGM app at your fingertips, you can experience the excitement of betting on your favorite players and get in on all the blue and orange action as your New York Knicks drive the lane. Find out why basketball fans love BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. BetMGM. Make it legendary. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 years of age or older to wager and physically present in New York and New Jersey only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Gambling problem in New York? Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. For New Jersey, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Ready to get rid of that old car? Donate it to Cars for Kids. Call 1-877-CARS-FOR-KIDS to reach a friendly live agent. Donation's super easy, and your car can be picked up as soon as tomorrow. Call us now, 1-877-CARS-FOR-KIDS. That's Cars with a K to donate your car today.
1-877 Cars for Kids. KARS Cars for Kids. 1-877 Cars for Kids. Donate your car today.
Did you know you can donate real estate too? Go to carsforkids.org. That's carsforkids.org.
Think Verizon, the best 5G network, is expensive? Think again. Bring in your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Now, what to do with your unwanted bills? Ever seen an origami version of the Statue of Liberty? Jokes aside, Verizon has the most ways to save on phones and plans where everyone in the family can choose their own plan and save. So bring in your bill to your local Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Rankings based on root metric true score report dated 1H2025. Your results may vary. Must provide a postpaid consumer mobile bill dated within the past 45 days. Bill must be in the same name as the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms
Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in New Jersey. T&Cs apply.
Hey, fans! Welcome back to Fansville's Cheers and Tears. Oh. Okay, so like everybody deals with losing, right? To a rival on a last-second field goal. Whatever, it's fine. I'm totally fine. But I cope with losing with an ice-cold Dr. Pepper. Those 23 flavors are like so delicious. They totally wash away the pain of your college football team taking a big fat L. College football, it's a pepper thing.
It's your last chance to get Disney Plus, Hulu, and the ESPN app for one incredible price. With the ESPN app, you can watch some of football's biggest postseason games, including epic bowl matchups, the College Football Playoff, and NFL Wild Card and Divisional Playoff games. Get it all for $29.99 a month for 12 months. Visit Disney Plus Hulu ESPNBundle.com for details. Ad-supported plan auto-renews at regular price. Currently $35.99 a month. Subject to change unless canceled. Ends January 5th, 2026. Terms apply.
You live for this. The wins, the losses, the slam dunks, and the buzzer beaters. The dream that this is your team's year. Hope. It's what keeps you coming back. So you represent with anticipation and with pride. Because when everything's on the line, your support means everything. That's why the NBA Store is here to support you. Check out the largest selection of official NBA gear at NBAstore.com. A Fanatics experience.
Rascal Flatts Life is a Highway Tour is coming to UBS Arena on January the 29th and Prudential Center on January the 30th, 2026. ESPN New York has your chance to score some tickets to the venue of your choice on the ESPN New York app. Just scroll down to contest, submit your entry. It's brought to you by Live Nation. Tickets are on sale right now at Ticketmaster.com. 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. Let us say Happy New Year and a good afternoon to the one and only Ira in Staten Island, who is up next here on ESPN New York. Ira, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're not making the trek up to Buffalo on Sunday.
Yeah, you're spot on. You're spot on. Yeah, no, definitely not making the trip up there. But, you beat me to the punch, man. It's just I was thinking about that 95-96 combo and how they went out with all that free agency and draft picks and everything, and they built a good roster and just didn't go well. Well, hopefully that's not going to be the case, but they're going to have to prove it to me for me to believe it. But the way I look at it, and you know how I felt, at the end of the year, I still don't know if I have a head coach. I know I don't have a quarterback. I look at it this way. You're right. I would take more at 2 or 3, if he's there. But I'm bringing in Kirk Cousins, and I'm re-signing Tyrod Taylor because he's a good locker room guy. And let those 2 guys handle the quarterback situation and wake me up in about a year or 2 when Dante Moore's ready to play. That's how I would approach this.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Ira, I think the 2 veteran plus rookie quarterback approach is the way to go. Look, Giants swung and missed with a lot of things this year, but I commend them for the way that they handled the quarterback situation because at the time we kind of were scratching our heads a little bit, but I think the Jets have to go down that road. And I'll say this about Tyrod Taylor, okay? I think the world of him. He's a great dude. And when he goes out there and plays, I still think he can help you win a football game or 2 here and there. But you cannot go into it with him being your quote-unquote only backup quarterback because, unfortunately, he's been an injury waiting to happen. That's why you need that second veteran in addition to Tyrod and the rookie going into next season.
Oh, see, I was looking at it. This is Cousins' job because I think, he could win your ball games, and I think Taylor's insurance in case he has to play a game or 2, and you don't have to mess around with the rookie. That's how I would look at it. And I think Taylor would accept it. And I think Cousins would, with his connection with Spielman, I think he'd be more than happy to come to the Jets and, give the Jets 17 games. And hopefully Moore's ready the following season if that's the case.
Ira, you know the old saying, time heals all wounds. I don't know how you feel about it. And I don't know how people in the building feel about it as well. But remember, Kirk Cousins kind of did the Jets dirty once upon a time, like publicly.
Yep.
He kind of thumbed his nose in their face back in 2018, like going into the 2018. When, and for those who don't remember, Kirk Cousins, when he was a free agent after Washington, when they couldn't franchise him anymore, when they did it, like 18 times in a row or whatever it was, and he made all that money, he was a free agent. Jets were in on him, and he used the Jets for leverage. And then there was some documentary or whatever the hell he was filming to where, like, he posted, like, him telling his wife that, oh, we got the Jets up to this number. If we can get Minnesota to get to this number, we'll be good to go. And then ultimately he goes and signs with the Vikings. So he wanted no part of the Jets back in 2018. Now, fast forward almost a decade later, like, if you're the Jets, do you want to welcome a guy like that in with open arms and be like, oh, let's let bygones be bygones? I don't know about that, Ira.
Yeah, but if it's not Cousins, then you're talking to Mariota or trading for Mac Jones or maybe Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, you don't have that many options. I mean, Fitzpatrick coming out of the TV booth, coming back to the play. No. I mean, they're not falling out of trees. So I think they're going to have to entertain it. And I only connect the dots because of Spielman. Spielman was with Cousins, so you never know how this thing's going to play out.
Yeah, but the thing is, and Ira, thanks a lot for the call, my friend. Remember, there's people there, though, that were around in that building, in 2018 and probably maybe still remember the way Kirk Cousins treated them, and they certainly have more say than, Rick Spielman does. So, I don't think one person's influence is necessarily going to put this over the top. Bottom line is, look, they have to do a sweeping overhaul of that quarterback room. And I'll tell you this, too. It's not just going to be the personnel that there's going to be changes. You will see changes probably on that coaching staff. I don't want to say significant because I don't know what number qualifies as significant, but there will be changes on that staff. Obviously, you're going to get a new defensive coordinator. That's one. I don't think that anything would happen to Tanner Engstrand as the OC. I think that they're going to want to let him have a go at it with a legitimate option at quarterback, if you will. But I think that some of those other assistant coaches on the offensive side of the ball, you might see some change there too, maybe even at the quarterback coach position. I don't know that to be true. But remember, if you're a head coach and Aaron Glenn finds himself in this situation and you're perceived to be safe coming off of a season that the Jets are coming off of, not to say that you want to start throwing other people overboard, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. and everything runs through you, and you're going to have to make some long, tough decisions and be like, all right, what do I got to do to make sure that we win enough so I keep my job next year? And remember, this was his first time putting together a coaching staff, and nobody bats 1,000, okay? For whatever reason, you don't. So you had a year at this thing. You realize that maybe some people aren't suited for what you want to do, so you make some changes. I mean, it happens all over the league. I mean, shoot, teams that win get rid of coaches after a year. I mean, look at the 49ers, right? They went to the Super Bowl one year, and they fired their defensive coordinator after 1 year. What was his name? What was his name again? I don't mean to take shots. I'm just saying. All right, good first hour. We'll come back. We'll keep it rolling here on the football conversation at 800-919-3776. We'll outline the games that actually do matter this weekend in the National Football League. We'll do more on the Jets and Giants, of course. And there are some thoughts and there are some takeaways from these college games over the last couple of days where, I mean, some of the storylines I think are actually fascinating, to be quite honest with you. We'll get into that. 60 more minutes to play with. We roll till 3 o'clock on this Friday. Grass is sitting in for Michael right here on ESPN New York.
FanDuel Friday is turning it up with NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, FanDuel is dropping limited-time specials to get you in the zone. Boost, bonuses, surprises, all designed to bring that Friday energy. This isn't just another promo. It's your weekly pregame NBA Happy Hour every Friday, 6 to 7:30 Eastern, only on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, FanDuel is dropping limited-time specials to get you in the zone. Boost, bonuses, surprises, all designed to bring that Friday energy. Visit FanDuel.com/local to grab your reward before the clock expires. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirements, and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Knicks fans, it's time to hit the court with BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. Download the BetMGM app today and add a boost of excitement to every New York game day with same-day parlays, live betting options, player props, boosted odds specials, and the best daily promotions in the business. With the BetMGM app at your fingertips, you can experience the excitement of betting on your favorite players and get in on all the blue and orange action as your New York Knicks drive the lane. Find out why basketball fans love BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. BetMGM. Make it legendary.
BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 years of age or older to wager and physically present in New York and New Jersey only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Gambling problem in New York? Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. For New Jersey, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Think Verizon, the best 5G network, is expensive? Think again. Bring in your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Now, what to do with your unwanted bills? Ever seen an origami version of the Statue of Liberty? Jokes aside, Verizon has the most ways to save on phones and plans where everyone in the family can choose their own plan and save. So bring in your bill to your local Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Rankings based on root metric true score report dated 1H2025. Your results may vary. Must provide a postpaid consumer mobile bill dated within the past 45 days. Bill must be in the same name as the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms apply.
Ox Spine at New York Presbyterian is always in pursuit of a better way to heal the spine. We're getting more people moving again with minimally invasive, non-surgical, and surgical treatments with innovative solutions for every back and spine condition and your unique needs. Expert spine care is available now across New York City and Westchester. Find a doctor at nyp.org/oxspine. Stay amazing. New York Presbyterian.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/ESPN. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/ESPN. That's ZipRecruiter.com/ESPN. ZipRecruiter.com/ESPN.
ZipRecruiter. 880 ESPN, WHSQ, and WCBS-FM HD2, New York. A Good Karma Brands radio station.
This college football moment is brought to you by Serve Pro.
College football teams have moments they recovered from and made it like it never even happened. Like on September 24th, 2016, when Tulsa found themselves down 31-0 to Fresno State. With 10 minutes left in the second quarter, Tulsa fought back to tie the game at 41. And then won 48-41 in double overtime.
Serve Pro. Like it never even happened.
Rich Eisen here. LinkedIn Jobs is stepping things up with their new AI assistant so you can feel confident you're finding top talent. Get this. Employees hired through LinkedIn are 30% more likely to stick around for at least a year compared to those hired through the leading competitor. Hire right the first time. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Eisen, then promote it to use LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant, making it easier and faster to find top candidates. That's linkedin.com/Eisen to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, hour number 2 on this Friday. Grassa sitting in for the K-Stir at 800-919-3776. That is the telephone number. We're taking it right up until 3 o'clock. Then it'll be Ty and Jake taking it right up until Knicks basketball. Knicks and the Hawks coming up tonight with a 7 o'clock pregame from MSG on 880. Rangers-Panthers Winter Classic 2026. Apparently you got some of the players after going through the practice and the skate yesterday taking shots at the quality of the ice down there in Miami. So we'll see how it plays. I mean, that's one of the things that you're going to have to contend with any sort of these outdoor games, especially in a warm weather climate like you have in Miami. The roof is going to be open at Lone Depot Park. So our coverage begins at 7:30 over on 1050 if you're looking for Rangers and Panthers tonight in the Winter Classic 2026. Shout out for the NHL, by the way, for playing this game tonight. I actually like it because obviously, with the 3 college football playoff games yesterday, they probably didn't want to interfere or, make a fan choose between one or the other. So I like the fact that the league kind of punted it till Friday night. You have the whole Friday to yourself. So anybody that wants to tune into that will be able to do so tonight. As far as the college games are concerned over the last couple of days. Now, the games themselves weren't all that spectacular aside from last. I mean, last night was just crazy with Ole Miss and Georgia. But the other ones were pretty much one-way traffic. And, on New Year's Eve, give a lot of credit to Miami. Remember, there were a lot of people back earlier in December that when the selection committee got together and put Miami in and Alabama in over Notre Dame, people were screaming bloody murder. But, look, Miami deserved to be there. They beat Notre Dame head-to-head. That should count for something. And a good job by Mario Cristobal, for getting that team to the point where they are now, 2 wins away from another national championship, playing bully ball and punching Ohio State in the mouth. And let's face it, they beat them up at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. And Ohio State, they kind of exposed themselves a little bit as a fraud football team. They really and truly did, because this year, whenever – and look, Ohio State still might be pound for pound the most talented team in the country, but they're not going to have a national championship to show for it. And hell, they're not even going to be part of the Final Four, because whenever Ohio State went up against like a real good talented defense this year with some athletes, they didn't score. They couldn't function, whether it was Miami, whether it was the Indiana game in the Big Ten championship, even when they played Texas earlier this year. The best was never brought out of that offense. So they got what they deserved. And Miami, the thing you like about Miami, even I'm not the biggest Carson Beck fan, but the thing you like about Miami is the way that he built that team, like I said, almost from like the inside out. Like they are very, very strong in the trenches. The right tackle, Francis Mauigoa from Miami, who is the brother of the Jet rookie linebacker Kiko Mauigoa, he's going to be, in all probability, a high first-round pick, maybe even in the top 10. He's super solid at that right tackle position. So they're going to be a tough out here in this game coming up next week against Ole Miss. It's going to be a real fun matchup. As far as Alabama was concerned yesterday, I mean, anybody that's watched college football, throughout their lives, did you ever think that the day would come that you would be sitting there watching Indiana, okay, once and always a basketball school? The Indiana who, I don't care if Indiana goes and wins a national championship this year, next year, and the year after. If they have a dynasty, win 3 in a row, they will always be a basketball school. Always will be. But if you ever thought in your lifetime that you would live long enough to see Indiana smack Alabama around on the Rose Bowl field, no less, on New Year's Day, I mean, I couldn't believe what I was watching. But, Alabama's been that team, and, we made all the jokes and everything about Notre Dame and the playoff and whatnot. The gripe was with Alabama. Not even so much Miami. I mean, anybody that knows anything realized, Miami beat Notre Dame head-to-head. Okay, they deserve it. But it was the inclusion of Alabama over Notre Dame. And Alabama proved that, they were just kind of Alabama by name. This was not anything close to these Nick Saban caliber Alabama teams. And it hasn't been like that for a couple of years. And they got exposed in a big way yesterday. Indiana did to Alabama yesterday what Alabama did to so many teams for, a decade that Nick Saban was there. And it's refreshing that you have these teams and full credit to Curt Cignetti and what he's done. I mean, I don't know if sports fans, and I understand that here in New York, college football is not necessarily like the top of the heap. Okay, we pay attention to it and talk about it like when it warrants it, playoff time, bowl time, all that stuff. But I don't know if fans even across the country really and truly understand the magnitude of what Curt Cignetti has done in just 2 years with Indiana. Like I said, that will always be a basketball school. Always. Okay? Not that they haven't had some good teams. I mean, Tom Allen had that good year, for example. I think it was during the COVID season. But still, but never like this. I mean, they're 2 wins away from a national championship. They have beaten up the likes of Alabama, Ohio State. They went into Autzen Stadium in Eugene, Oregon, and beat Oregon earlier this year. Now they're going to play him again in the playoff. They got the Heisman freaking trophy winner in Fernando Mendoza, the guy who's probably going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. It's incredible what this guy has done in just 2 years. We're not talking about like a 10-year build, I mean, I know that it was a different world and a different landscape in college football, but, what Frank Beamer built decades ago at Virginia Tech was pretty special. Bill Snyder, what he did at Kansas State. I mean, you can even friggin' say, Greg Schiano Part 1 at Rutgers, getting them into the top 10 in 2006, what he got that program to be from where they were, but nothing like this. Nothing like this, where you're the undefeated number 1 ranked team in the country and right now the betting favorite to be national champions. It's awesome. I mean, if this was pro sports, they'd be sitting there, till the cows come home talking about the job that this guy did. It's, if Aaron Glenn or somebody, whoever gets this Jets program turned around, it's going to feel like that. It's going to feel that unbelievable. Once you see what that program was to what it is now and playing at the level it is, it's really cool to watch. And, the Oregon game yesterday against Texas Tech, Dante Moore went out there and, look, Texas Tech was a really, really good defense. But Oregon just, at the end of the day, they wore them down. Even though the score wasn't as lopsided on the board as maybe you would have thought. Oregon was on the field offensively the whole day. I think they had something like 50 plays in the first half. So eventually Texas Tech's defense was going to wear down, and that's ultimately what happened because Tech's offense did nothing yesterday. Nothing. And Dante Moore showed you the ability. He made some throws. He has some of those off-platform, off-angle type throws where he could release the football, but he doesn't have as much experience as, let's say, a Fernando Mendoza. And that's why I don't think Moore is going to be a plug-and-play day 1 starter in the NFL for whoever it is. But guy's got ability. He's got a ton of talent, and absolutely you take him with the number 2 pick in the draft. The question that's going to become with these quarterbacks is, if you're the Raiders, and we're just assuming that they're going to be the number 1 pick, right? The Raiders have done some screwy things over the years, and we know that, especially when Al Davis was there, they had a different way of evaluating players compared to others. You know, they looked at a guy and, like, just fell in love with the attributes, whether it was the speed, like Darius Hayward-Bay, you know, taking him in the top 10, and you're like, huh? You know, we saw what happened with him. You know, Jamarcus Russell, number 1 overall at quarterback, and we know how much of a disaster that turned out to be. Fernando Mendoza is deemed to be the safe pick. Like we've been saying, you know, people have been telling me for the last 2 months that out of all these quarterbacks, the thing about Mendoza is they think that he will be the one to get the most out of his ability. Maybe not the highest ceiling, but the highest floor. And that's why he's the safer pick. But are the Raiders going to maybe bypass that and do something Raiderish and look at a guy and maybe take the guy with the higher ceiling, and that could be Dante Moore potentially. And so then Fernando Mendoza could be sitting there if you're picking second, whoever that might be. A lot's going to play out between now and the draft, but you know, these are all options, but nevertheless, Mendoza, Moore Mendoza. If Moore declares, those should be the top 2 picks coming up here in the draft. And then last night, I'll tell you, that was a fun game to watch. It wasn't exactly a coaching clinic on either side. Now, I did see, I guess, after I saw today that Kirby Smart said after the game that when Georgia went for it on that 4th down deep in their own territory in the 4th quarter, which I don't know what the hell they were thinking. Kirby Smart apparently said that the ball should never have been snapped. That was the intention. So something got lost in communication somehow, and they went ahead and ran the play, and, of course, it had no chance of executing. And, you know, that just helped kind of seal their deal. Give credit to Ole Miss for fighting back. I think that a lot of people that were watching that game were rooting for Ole Miss for the garbage that Lane Kiffin kind of put them through. But get this, right? So you still had 4 assistant coaches that were coaching for Ole Miss last night that have already signed contracts to go with Lane Kiffin to LSU, including Charlie Weiss Jr., who was the offensive coordinator. Because Ole Miss won that game last night, and now their season goes another week, do you realize that those 4 assistants might not be able to coach in that game for Ole Miss in the national semifinal against Miami? This could not be more of a botched situation, and Lane Kiffin just continues to look worse and worse and worse. And I go back to the decision when he up and left and dragged Ole Miss through the mud and, you know, left them high and dry, even though we all knew that ultimately he was going to jump ship and go to LSU. Remember, look at the situation in Indiana. Like, Lane Kiffin can't sit there and tell you that he was torn and all this other stuff. All right, if he was truly happy at Ole Miss and really believed in this team and did what right by the school and the players and all these things, he could have signed a contract extension. Ole Miss would have paid him handsomely to keep him. Okay? You don't think that people were coming after Kurt Cignetti midway through the season in Indiana this year for the job that he was doing? And guess what Kurt Cignetti did? He stayed with Indiana. He was loyal to the program, loyal to the team he built, loyal to the kids that actually committed to him, especially in this transient nature of college sports where guys, do you know today the transfer portal is open? Now, is it ridiculous? Absolutely it is. To where we are still in a playoff, and there are already 1,100 kids as of whatever time that was this morning when I saw it in the transfer portal, and the thing just opened. 1,100 kids. Like, I don't know how anybody does it. Like coaching major college football nowadays, given the rules and the landscape and the way that it is. I just, you literally have to re-recruit your entire team after the season. Forget about like building a program for guys that, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, it's like you basically have just a team full of 1-year commitments. It's the same thing in basketball, but you just have a lot less personnel you got to deal with. Like, it's insane. And you got guys that are going to like 4 different schools, and they come into the pros. And the ones that were still in college during like the COVID year, they're in school like 6, 7. It's crazy. That's why you have a guy like, Tyler Shuck for the Saints this year. I mean, he's a rookie. He's 26 years old. He's 26 years old. But get used to it, because I don't think that it's changing anytime soon. So some guys are opening up eyes, of course. Trinidad Chambliss had himself a great game last night. I mean, my gosh, if he could go and lead Ole Miss to the national championship. And this is a guy who was playing D2 football last year. D2 at Ferris State. And all of a sudden, Now he's got that team 2 wins away from a championship. Really, really cool. And I'm looking forward to these semifinal games. One is on Thursday. One is coming up on Friday night. All right, let's get back to the phones and say hi to Chris and Beth Page, who is up next here on ESPN New York. Christopher, how are you?
Hey, Dan. Just a quick little switch over to my Giants. I want to get your take on this whole tanking thing, which I think is ludicrous. It's crazy. Nobody, name the last time someone tanked, then successfully traded their picks and got a haul, and it all worked out. And by the way, the Giants are a rarity. I've never seen it as all the years I've been a Giant fan, 45 years, that their best attribute is their quarterback room. I mean, that's the biggest strength right now is their quarterback room with a young quarterback, Jackson Dart, and a good veteran in Jameis Winston. So my point is this. They don't need a quarterback, right? Now, we don't know. Do you know if Moore's going to definitely declare for the draft? I mean, we don't know, right? It's not 100%. Right. So let's just say, for whatever argument's sake, he does. So now the Giants go out and beat the Cowboys, and they slip to whatever, 5th or 6th or whatever, okay? What haul are we going to get for that, the second pick? And by the way, I caution everybody. All things are different, by the way. Just because, when Trevor Lawrence was coming out, that was graded really highly by these general managers, okay? They may not want to give up a whole lot just to get Dante Moore. You know what I mean? So my point is this. Go out, beat the Cowboys, and try to keep improving, keep Jackson Dart going. And guess what? There's going to be a really good player, no matter where the Giants pick. Even if they pick 7th, there's 2 really good wide receivers. There's the 2 kids, great players from Ohio State. And there's a good offensive tackle, Fano, all needs that the Giants have. So, I don't know. What's your take on tanking?
Well, I mean, tanking, I'm not necessarily an advocate of it, Chris, and thanks for the phone call. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but the Giants find themselves in a unique situation because they've, for lack of a better term, they have a quarterback already, right? I mean, the only reason nowadays in the NFL that you move heaven and earth to move up the draft board is to get a quarterback. Giants don't have to do that. They have that luxury of going into next season. I mean, shoot, if you're a Giant fan, you want Jackson Dart to be the guy for the next 10 years. And right now, look, I can't sit here and give you an honest reason as to something that would maybe deter you from thinking that. Now, I'm not going to sit here and also tell you that he's guaranteed to be that guy. He's only got less than a year's sample size, but he's shown you enough things to where he can play winning football. If he's coached right and you put some talent around him, the guy's actually got ability. And the NFL game is not too big for him. He's shown you that he can go out there and play winning ball. So I'd be excited about his progression and what he does in the years to come. The tanking thing goes out the window for the Giants because they went out there and they already won last week in Vegas. And the difference is that, as I said earlier in the show, Mike Kafka and all those assistants on that staff, they're not guaranteed to come back next year, and chances are most of them are going to be gone anyways. So if you're the coaching staff, why are you going out there on Sunday against the Cowboys trying to lose? Why would I help an organization's draft position if I'm not even going to be employed by that organization in 3-4 months, right? I'm going to go out there and try to win a game. Because I know that in a couple of weeks, or whoever it is, whenever they get a new coach in here, once he decides to wipe out the coaching staff and bring in the guys that he wants to work with, I got to go find a job someplace. And I want to at least have these last couple of games on my resume saying, see, this was me as an assistant coach, an interim coach, whatever I am. This is what I did, and I had my guys playing well so I could get guys to believe in what I'm trying to sell them. I don't think tanking is an option anymore for the Giants. I mean, I think they made that plain as day for the way that they go out there and play the Raiders last week. 800-919-3776, telephone number. Andrew in Long Island up next here on ESPN New York. What's up, Andrew? How are you?
Hey, Dan. How are you? Happy New Year.
Same to you, Andrew. What's up?
Thank you. Listen, with the Giants, I wanted to say, I don't see them beating the Cowboys because they haven't beaten them in 5 years, and Dak hasn't lost to them since 2016. And
but they're not going to play the whole game, though. Andrew, remember, Dak and the starters for the Cowboys are not going to play the whole game.
Yeah, but still, that's not saying much when it comes to the Giants. But, this year, I know Michael K. asks the question a lot to guests on his show. What's the incentive for a coach to come to the Giants, right? And, of course, Dart, of course, is one of them. And also the Giants, they don't have much in salary cap space. This year, 17.5, but they can free up another 25.7, which they should do. But for next year in 2027, they have $112 million, and then $238 million in 28. So a lot of incentive for a coach to come. And also, I think they're going to lock in at the second pick, and if they do, they got to go with Khalib Downs. You always got to go with the best pick you got at that value, whoever it is, even if they're not looking at that area. But they need this in this area, the defense, the Giants. And Khalib Downs, he takes 906 snaps on free safety, 48 snaps on cornerback, and in the slot, 562 snaps. In the box, 838 snaps. And line of scrimmage, 66 snaps. This guy's a leader. He'll be the next captain on the team. It's needed because they're going to release Okirky to free up $25 million for this year. And I think the Giants go with that on that pick. Khalib Downs is the best pick, I think, at number 2 for them. And then they can go for either a receiver in the next pick still, a wide receiver 2, or a linebacker. A good linebacker is pretty much available still.
Andrew, thanks for the phone call. Caleb Downs, by the way, is who you're talking to, not Khalib. But nevertheless, look, it's first of all, and I understand they haven't done a lot of winning in recent years. You're still the New York freaking Giants. You know? You're the New York Giants. There's only 32 of these jobs, so I don't care who you are. If you're asking the question to anybody, what makes the job desirable, there's only 32 of these in the world. That's it. You know, I mean, not for nothing. Does somebody wake up one morning and say, oh, I want to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars? Unless you maybe grew up in Jacksonville, other than that. But Liam Cohen, he's doing all right down there, right? And oh, by the way, let's not forget. And this is something that pertains to the Giants potentially. Liam Cohen, when he was being courted by the Jacksonville Jaguars last offseason, and they were getting closer to getting the job done, he basically got cold feet, so it was perceived, and then walked away and said he wasn't interested. And what was happening behind the scenes is that he basically said, I'm not working with the general manager that you got in place. I'm not taking the job if he's still here. And what happened? Jacksonville went out there, they bagged the general manager, they hired the kid, and then Liam Cohen agreed to take the job, and the rest is history. They're going to win a division this week. Point is, you got the Joe Schoen situation hanging over the head of whatever coaching candidate's going to be out there for the Giants. What happens if some candidate, whoever that might be, decides to come in and tell, well, he's not going to tell it to Joe Schoen, but if he tells John Mara and Steve Tisch, I don't want to work with this guy, well, guess what? If they want the coach that bad, then they're going to show Joe Schoen the door. Not that they might not decide to do that already, given the fact that his resume doesn't exactly scream that's somebody that you want to roll forward with. So this stuff all has to play itself out. And, again, it's amazing what good coaching can do. Because, I understand that, like, we treat these quarterbacks, these young quarterbacks with kid gloves. Like, they're almost in like a laboratory and you have to like nurture them and grow them, make sure that they get enough light and water and, you're building something from the ground up. It has to be the perfect situation. Hey, Drake May's head coach was fired after 1 year. That didn't hurt his development. Year 2, they brought in a whole new system. Now, granted, it's a system and it's a coach that knows a thing or two about winning. And I'm not talking about Vrabel. I'm talking about Josh McDaniels, who worked with the greatest of all time. All right? And Drake May is having an MVP season. Caleb Williams, all right? There was a lot of things that were erratic about his game, questioning whether or not he should have even been the number 1 pick in the draft. He had an inept coaching staff last year that they blew out midway through the season. They hire Ben Johnson. He comes in, new system, year number 2, Chicago's division champions. Jacksonville, same thing. All right? Trevor Lawrence has had, his rookie year, think about what he had. He had friggin' Urban Meyer. And that might have been the worst of all. And then they brought in Doug Peterson, a guy who you thought knows something about quarterbacks and won a Super Bowl with Nick Foles and all those things. And, okay, so now he's on his third primary head coach. And Trevor Lawrence is probably playing the best football that he's played in his entire career. So I know that you're thinking about, okay, what is this going to do to Jackson Dart? You're going to bring in a new head coach, and this is going to be his second system in as many years. It might be good for him. And then whatever ends up happening with the Jets, whatever young quarterback they bring in here next year, if things still don't get better and they realize, well, we got to make a change at the top and change coaches, it may not necessarily be a death sentence either for the quarterback. I know that it hasn't worked out always along these same lines. Like some quarterbacks don't necessarily benefit from change after change after change. But as we've seen this year in the NFL, depending on what guys you bring in to help tutor these quarterbacks, it could be beneficial for them. 800-919-3776. We'll get into the Giant coaching search when we come back. Haven't touched much on that either. We'll get into the Week 18 slate of games you should be paying attention to as well. We roll till 3 o'clock on this Friday. Grass is sitting in for Michael right here on ESPN New York.
FanDuel Friday is turning it up with NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, FanDuel is dropping limited-time specials to get you in the zone. Boost, bonuses, surprises, all designed to bring that Friday energy. This isn't just another promo. It's your weekly pregame NBA Happy Hour every Friday, 6 to 7:30 Eastern, only on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, FanDuel is dropping limited-time specials to get you in the zone. Boost, bonuses, surprises, all designed to bring that Friday energy. Visit FanDuel.com/local to grab your reward before the clock expires. 21 plus and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirements, and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Knicks fans, it's time to hit the court with BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. Download the BetMGM app today and add a boost of excitement to every New York game day with same-day parlays, live betting options, player props, boosted odds specials, and the best daily promotions in the business. With the BetMGM app at your fingertips, you can experience the excitement of betting on your favorite players and get in on all the blue and orange action as your New York Knicks drive the lane. Find out why basketball fans love BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. BetMGM. Make it legendary.
BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 years of age or older to wager and physically present in New York and New Jersey only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Gambling problem in New York? Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. For New Jersey, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
If you've been injured on a construction site, then you need a lawyer who knows New York's unique labor laws. At the Parisman Firm, they have decades of experience handling construction accident cases and a proven track record of delivering huge results. Their team has already recovered nearly $1 billion for hardworking New Yorkers. From scaffold accidents to slip and falls and equipment failures, they've got your back. Call the Parisman Firm now at 718-WORKERS. That's right, 718-WORKERS, because your case is their cause. Get the justice you deserve today.
Think Verizon, the best 5G network, is expensive? Think again. Bring in your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Now, what to do with your unwanted bills? Ever seen an origami version of the Statue of Liberty? Jokes aside, Verizon has the most ways to save on phones and plans where everyone in the family can choose their own plan and save. So bring in your bill to your local Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Rankings based on root metric true score report dated 1H2025. Your results may vary. Must provide a postpaid consumer mobile bill dated within the past 4.
Ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in New Jersey. T&Cs apply. In-app only.
Listen up, New York. It's football season, and you should be out there enjoying every play, every tailgate, every moment. But if you're dealing with neck pain, back pain, joint pain, or sciatica, even getting off the couch can feel like a challenge. That's where Dr. J. Shaw at Sandwell Pain comes in. He's one of New Jersey's top pain specialists, Ivy League trained, double board certified, and dedicated to getting you back in the game. Here's the difference. No surgery, no scars, no long recovery, no pain medication. Just precise, non-surgical, image-guided procedures that get real results. Dr. Shaw treats everything from neck pain, back pain, migraines, nerve pain, and chronic joint pain. And he builds a custom game plan that's right for you. Same-day or next-day appointments are available with offices in Woodbridge, Livingston, and Inglewood. And yes, most major insurances are accepted. So don't let pain keep you on the sidelines this season. Go to SandwellPain.com to call, text, or book online. Relief is closer than you think, and it starts today.
Rich Eisen here. As you all know, I care deeply about pediatric cancer research and awareness. That's why I'm proud to talk about Hyundai Hope on Wheels. For over 27 years, every Hyundai sold has helped fund life-saving pediatric cancer research. Together with over 850 dealers nationwide, they've raised more than $277 million, supporting over 25,000 kids in their fight against cancer. At Hyundai, hope isn't optional. It comes standard. Visit HyundaiUSA.com and search Hyundai Hope on Wheels to learn more.
Hey, fans! Welcome back to Fansville's Cheers and Tears. Oh. Okay, so everybody deals with losing, right? To a rival on a last-second field goal. Whatever, it's fine. I'm totally fine. But I cope with losing with an ice-cold Dr. Pepper. Those 23 flavors are so delicious. They totally wash away the pain of your college football team taking a big fat L. College football, it's a pepper thing.
All right, it's game time brought to you by Tullamore Dew Irish Whiskey, because when it's game time, it is Tully time. 7 o'clock, Nets in D.C. to take on the Wizards. 7:30, you got the Knickerbockers home to take on the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young going to sit that one out for Atlanta. That, of course, at MSG. Coverage begins right here on ESPN 880 at 7 p.m. And then Winter Classic 2026 from Miami. Rangers, Panthers, Lone Depot Park. Our coverage will be over on 1050 ESPN, and that begins at 7:30 tonight. And that is Game Time, brought to you by Tullamore Dew, the original triple distilled, triple blended, and triple cask matured Irish whiskey. Be sure to grab a Tullamore Dew or try the new Tullamore Dew Honey. During today's action, glasses up to enjoying Tullamore Dew responsibly. 800-919-3776, the telephone number. Grass is sitting in for Michael here. We roll till 3 o'clock. Giant injury update, injured list for game 18 or game 17, whatever, on Sunday against the Cowboys. Cordell Flott, Javon Holland, Theo Johnson, Evan Neal, Rakeem Nunez-Roches, and Wan'Dale Robinson all out for the Giants this week. Jalen Hyatt questionable with an illness. So some of those other defensive players who were nursing some illness issues, they will be good to go. The Dexter Lawrences, the Abdul Carters, guys like that should be ready to rock and roll Sunday against the Cowboys. Question for the Giants, though, with Wan'Dale Robinson being ruled out, is have we seen the last of Wan'Dale Robinson in a Giant uniform? We know that he's a free agent at the end of the season. He's made himself, I think, a nice chunk of change, going over 1,000 yards this year with the revolving door at the quarterback position. I think the Giants would like to have him back, but I think that a lot of other teams would like to have Wan'Dale Robinson as well, because I know that for a small-ish kind of receiver, I think that he's done a nice job, certainly kind of progressing so far in his time in the league, and then having it all come together this season is good for him. But, we'll see what the rest of the NFL feels, and if somebody's going to give him enough money to think that he could be somebody you plop into their system and he's going to be successful and, help that offense productive, we'll see if the Giants get into a bidding war or not for Wan'Dale Robinson. So we shall see. As far as the big question in hand for the Giants, and that's going to be, head coach. And who's going to ultimately be the guy that they land on? Is it going to be a first-timer? Should it be a first-timer? Should it be somebody that has a little bit of experience when it comes to running a program previously? And I tend to lean in that category because when you've been down as long as the Giants have been, I do think it would help them to have somebody who has actually had a run at this thing before. And I know that there's a lot of folks out there that really seem to just thumb their nose at somebody like Mike McCarthy and think that that would be a bad hire and think that he's too old and think that the game has passed him by and, all these other things. And why didn't he, win more with Aaron Rodgers all those years? Why was it only one Super Bowl? He only won the one playoff game with the Dallas Cowboys. Why didn't he win more there? Well, first of all, as far as the Dallas situation is concerned, help me figure out in the last 30 years what other coach has gone down there and actually won with Jerry's team. So it's not like they were kicking other people to the curb who, had all these championship rings and were settling on guys like Mike McCarthy, and he just couldn't do what these other guys were accomplishing. So miss me with that one. And the Aaron Rodgers stuff and everything that happened in Green Bay all those years, yeah, okay, granted. With Rodgers playing at a high level, 4 MVPs, you only went to the one Super Bowl. Yeah, I totally get it. A couple of those MVPs weren't on McCarthy's watch either. Matt LaFleur had been there by then. But nevertheless, there were games that probably got away from him. That Seattle one in the NFC Championship game on the road where they had special teams blunders and all that other stuff. I don't know if you blame the quarterback or the head coach necessarily for that. But the bottom line is Mike McCarthy has won. And for a team like the New York Giants, and I'll throw the fans into this too, for a franchise that has not won for as long as the Giants have been down, how are you going to sit there and turn away and completely dismiss somebody whose resume is as consistently loaded with winning as Mike McCarthy's is? Let's narrow it down to even recent history and with the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy won double-digit games, won divisions with the Dallas Cowboys multiple times, right? And then the 2 seasons where he didn't necessarily have success with the Cowboys, Dak Prescott was hurt. But when he had his quarterback healthy, under center, making plays, all those things, he put a winning product out there on the field. You mean to tell me that if you're a Giant fan right now, you would scoff at winning the NFC East and winning a playoff game? Like suddenly you're too good for that? You want me to remind you of the record for the last 4 or 5 years? And a general manager who's gone 6-27 over the last 2 seasons, trying to keep his job, and all of a sudden winning a division, winning 11, 12 games suddenly is not good enough because it's got to be Super Bowl or bust? Okay, fine. Well, if that's not good enough for you, do you want to take a chance at some of these first-timers thinking that all of a sudden they're going to walk in here and just start adding to the Super Bowl collection in the trophy case? How do we know that Jeff Hafley is going to be the answer? Why? Because he's from New Jersey? Because he knows the exits on the Turnpike and the Parkway? That means he could coach football and he's going to be a good head coach running this football. Remember, everybody thought, and I'll put myself into this category, everybody thought that Brian Daboll was the answer. After the rousing success that he had in year number 1, where you won a playoff game with Daniel Jones, right? And then how did that work out the rest of the way? You want to take a run at Lou Anarumo, another guy, because he was a Giant assistant once upon a time, and, he put together game plans that stymied Patrick Mahomes when he was with the Bengals. That Colt defense is still going to be sitting at home watching the playoffs like the rest of us starting next week. You don't know that he's necessarily the answer either. You want to take a flyer on Chris Shula because the last name does it for you? And he's done a good job with the defenses with the Rams the last couple of years. And, he's on that quote-unquote McVay coaching tree. Anybody that comes into contact with Sean McVay is a genius. Look, all kidding aside, Chris Shula, football, his family is football. He grew up in it. So that's all he's known his entire life. But you don't know if he's going to be a good head coach. But here's what we do know when it comes to the Giants. Whoever they settle on, my opinion, you're at least going into this thing with the biggest obstacle, I would like to think, already out of the way, and that's the fact that you got a quarterback, right? You have Jackson Dart already. That's somebody you can build with, somebody that I think you can win with. That, to me, alone makes the job appealing. If we're going to get into all of this, is it appealing or not? Is it attractive or not? Where does the Giant job rank among some of the other openings? You know what? There's talent to work with there. And there's no right or wrong answer to this question either. Like, should it be a first-timer? Should it be somebody with experience? I think just in recent track record with the Giants, the fact that you have gone first-timers and the fact that these guys have not worked out, okay, you try it a little bit differently and you go with somebody who has previous head coaching experience. I know I'm dating myself, right? I am. But if you want to go back almost 30 years ago, think about what happened to the Giants in the 90s. At the time, Dan Reeves, when they had to dig out from the Ray Hanley mess for 2 years after Parcells left, all right, Dan Reeves was somebody who flamed out in Denver and didn't see eye to eye anymore with John Elway, and John Elway couldn't wait to get rid of him in Denver, right? Dan Reeves was a guy who was a quote-unquote, retread head coach or whatever, came in here, and he brought stability again back to this organization. Brought respect back to the organization. And his first year, boom, they were winners, right back into the playoffs, double-digit wins. I think he won Coach of the Year. And I know that it was a different world in the NFL, but things like that. And then when the Giants got rid of him because they thought that he was done and he, started to lose games here, he goes to Atlanta and takes him to the freaking Super Bowl. Right? So sometimes it's weird how this game kind of unfolds. You have to find yourself in the perfect situation. Maybe this kind of all zeroes in back on a guy like McCarthy. I don't think McCarthy would be the worst hire in the world for this football team. Somebody who can walk into that door day one, who has run a program before, knows what the hell he's doing, get out of his way, and let him just coach the football team. Somebody who's been to the Super Bowl, somebody who's been to the playoffs, coached in many an important game. That's what this team needs right now. Not taking a flyer on a scratch-off lottery ticket, hoping that this first-time coach that you hire, whoever it might be, is going to be somebody who can actually get the job done for you. Let's say hi to Tony in Connecticut, up next here on ESPN New York. Tony, how are you?
Dan, how are you? Happy
Tone, what's up?
Listen, listen. You know me. This is going on year 46, and I'm hanging by a thread with the Jets now, season tickets, right? And I'm not one to be rash about this, but I'm seeing some cracks in the foundation that Aaron Glenn's trying to build here. And the reason I say that is, all along during the course of the season, he kept a lot of things within the locker room, and he didn't say. He kept the reporters, I don't want to say in the dark. I had no problem with it. He wants to keep things among the players. But then he comes out after the Patriot game and he announces to the public that he thought the effort wasn't there. Then he thinks about it. I guess it reflects poorly on the coaching staff, so he backtracks. I didn't like the comments from Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall. It seems like he's starting to lose the locker room a little bit. That's one thing that concerns me. And the second thing that concerns me is I know we're getting outclassed from a talent perspective in the last 4 weeks. I get all of that, but we're getting out-schemed too. By the Dolphins, by the Patriots. Every time we play a team that has maybe brilliant is too strong of a word. No, Josh McDaniels is a brilliant offensive coordinator. These guys aren't even in position to make plays. Forget about that they don't have the talent to make plays. They're just getting out-schemed. And I want to be patient here, but I'm starting to lose some confidence. We have this thing set up now where we have a ton of draft picks, and we got to get this offseason correct. And I'm just concerned. I think Muji has done a good job with the trades and everything. He positioned us well, but I just don't know where we stand from a coaching perspective. And I'm not saying Woody Johnson should make the change this year. I'm just voicing some concern. And then on the caller who called in about the Giants, just one thing about tanking. Listen, if I'm the Giants and let's say and I knew I had the head coaching job for the next year, and I get it that Kafka does it, I'm going to go out and play all my third stringers. It's a meaningless Cowboy game. If you get the second pick in the draft and the teams behind you, especially the Jets, need a quarterback and they have all these draft picks to trade, I'm doing that. And I'm just going to tell the public, listen, we want to see some of this younger talent. And that's it. So I know that it's not related to the Jets. Well, it is tangentially. Those are my comments, Dan. And
but Tone, here's the thing, and thanks for the phone call. That thinking might apply to the Giants if you had a coaching staff that was coming back next year. But these guys that are on the staff right now, they're not going to be here next year. God bless Mike Kafka. He's not going to be part of the staff next year. He's going to go out there and he's going to try to win a game. Remember, Mike Kafka tried like hell to get a win. Like last week, he finally got a win as an NFL head coach. Right? He don't care about tank. Like nobody should. Imagine wherever you work, whatever your line of work is. If you know you're not going to be with the company in a year or whatever, like why should you care as to what happens, let's say like right now, that's going to affect them, down the road when you're not going to be a part of the program any longer? You got to look out for yourself. You got to do what's best for yourself and worry about your future. Mike Kafka's trying to win games. He may not get another opportunity as an NFL head coach. And so, years from now when he goes on the internet or his, grandkids go on the internet and they go on, Pro Football Reference and look up Mike Kafka head coach, he'd rather have a number 2 next to the win column as opposed to a number 1. They're going to try to win that game, so he's going to put guys out on the field that are going to help him win the football game. And as far as like with the Jets stuff happened in the last couple of weeks and, the messaging and all that stuff, truth be told, all right, I'll let you, I'll take you in behind, you know what? I'll take a break. I'll come back, and we'll talk about that situation, about the comments after the game the other night, and I'll tell you exactly what I thought about it before the coach even took the podium after that game on Sunday. We're going until 3 o'clock, then it's going to be Ty and Jake taking it right up until Knicks basketball right here on ESPN New York.
Knicks fans, it's time to hit the court with BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. Download the BetMGM app today and add a boost of excitement to every New York game day with same-day parlays, live betting options, player props, boosted odds specials, and the best daily promotions in the business. With the BetMGM app at your fingertips, you can experience the excitement of betting on your favorite players and get in on all the blue and orange action as your New York Knicks drive the lane. Find out why basketball fans love BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the New York Knicks. BetMGM. Make it legendary.
BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 years of age or older to wager and physically present in New York and New Jersey only. Subject to eligibility requirements. Gambling problem in New York? Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. For New Jersey, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Presented by Robinhood.
He crosses, spins, pulls up.
With Robinhood Prediction Markets, buy or sell your predictions all game long. No house odds, just you versus the market. Put your sports IQ to work. Trade every shot, block, steal, run, and moment that shifts the game. With Robinhood Prediction Markets, trade every play. Visit Robinhood.com/predict to start trading. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm.
Think Verizon, the best 5G network, is expensive? Think again. Bring in your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to a Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Now, what to do with your unwanted bills? Ever seen an origami version of the Statue of Liberty? Jokes aside, Verizon has the most ways to save on phones and plans where everyone in the family can choose their own plan and save. So bring in your bill to your local Verizon store today and we'll give you a better deal. Rankings based on root metric true score report dated 1H2025. Your results may vary. Must provide a postpaid consumer mobile bill dated within the past 45 days. Bill must be in the same name as the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms apply.
FanDuel Friday is turning it up with NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. FanDuel is dropping limited time specials to get you in the zone. You got boosts, bonuses, and some surprises, all designed to bring that Friday energy. This isn't just another promo, it's your weekly pregame. So when you're wrapping up the work week, the action is only just beginning with your NBA Happy Hour every Friday, 6 to 7:30 p.m., and it's only on FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. FanDuel is dropping limited time specials to get you in the zone. You got boosts, bonuses, and some surprises, all designed to bring that Friday energy. Visit FanDuel.com/local to grab your reward before the clock expires. Must be 21 and older and physically present in New York. Opt-in required. Rewards are non-withdrawable. Restrictions do apply, including bonus and token expiration, leg requirements, and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467369.
New York Presbyterian treats more heart patients than any other hospital in New York. From common to complex conditions, our cardiologists and heart surgeons are pioneers in advanced heart care, leading the way in minimally invasive treatments for faster recovery times. Find a doctor at nyp.org/heart. Stay amazing. New York Presbyterian. New York Presbyterian Hospital based on U.S. News and World Report 2025 to 2026 cardiology, heart, and vascular surgery rankings.
My name is Whitney Allen. I am a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought in a million years we'd have to use life insurance. The unexpected happened. With Ethos, it is so fast and easy. It's 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage through Ethos.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/game. That's ETHOS.com/game.
Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Hey, fans! Welcome back to Fansville's Cheers and Tears. Oh. Okay, so like everybody deals with losing, right? To a rival on a last-second field goal. Whatever, it's fine. I'm totally fine. But I cope with losing with an ice-cold Dr. Pepper. Those 23 flavors are like so delicious. They totally wash away the pain of your college football team taking a big fat L. College football, it's a pepper thing.
In the city that never sleeps and never stops talking sports, ESPN New York is always on. Now you can live and breathe everything New York sports wherever you are. On your radio dial, on the ESPN New York app, and streaming live on YouTube. However you watch or listen, ESPN New York is always on for you. Hear us, stream us, watch us. This is ESPN New York.
All right, Grass sitting in for Michael here on ESPN New York. A few more minutes, we'll hand things over to Jake and to Ty. See, here's the thing. That game was going on Sunday, and we're sitting there watching it, and look, obviously, it is what it is. New England scores the first 6 possessions. They score touchdowns. You're just like, what are you watching? And I did say to Greg, I said, I don't think the fans are going to want to hear him say after the game that the guys fought hard, they competed, they tried, and all, because after a while, that falls on deaf ears because, unfortunately, if you're old enough to remember as a Jet fan, that was what you got basically every Sunday out of Kotite for the 2 years that he was here. And they only won 4 games in 2 years. And they were, the worst team in the NFL. But he'd go up there and he would say, the team fought hard, they never quit. And you hate to hear that from coaches because it's loser's lament. That's your job as a professional, to fight hard, to play, to never quit, right? So that's the last thing that a fan wants to hear the coach say when they are on the losing end of yet another game and an ugly score on the scoreboard and all that type of stuff. And so when he went up there and he said what he said, I think that he meant it. And then he comes out the next day and then kind of changes his tune a little bit because I think that maybe somebody got in his ear, whether it was players, maybe it was anybody in that building, whatever it might be. Maybe he didn't want to alienate some folks. But the raw emotion, I think, is what you got on Sunday afternoon. And, some of those other guys, whether it was Jermaine Johnson, Breece Hall, whatever it was, like there's no guarantee those 2 guys, first of all, are even going to be on the team next year. Let's get that in order. It's great that Breece got his 1,000 yards, but, Breece has also been here now for 4 years, and maybe he wants a change of scenery. I don't know what he's thinking. You're going to have to ask him. And Jermaine Johnson, has not had a great year. He'll be the first one to tell you that. And if you're the Jets, you have to decide, is that because he's coming off of his Achilles injury? And sometimes they tell you it takes like a full year for guys to get back into the mix from having that type of an injury. You hope, but he wasn't the same player this year that he was the season before he ended up getting hurt. So, there's going to be, look, this roster is going to look a lot different in 2026. A lot different because I don't know how you could only win 3 games and play the way that they've played this year and say, oh, yeah, let's run it back. You're not going to do it. All right, so this weekend in the NFL, you got 2 playoff spots up for grabs, one in the AFC, one in the NFC. You got 4 division titles that need to be sewn away. And you still have the top seed in each conference. That also has to be figured out here. The games with significance, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Seattle, San Francisco on Saturday. Those have some meaning. The New Orleans-Atlanta game, Sunday at 1 o'clock, could have significance. Tampa Bay, if they beat Carolina, they need Atlanta to lose on Sunday to win the division. Carolina is a simple win and they're in based on the tie-breaking structure. So that Saints-Falcons game on Sunday may or may not mean something. Tennessee-Jacksonville, Indy-Houston, 1 o'clock on Sunday. Jags control their destiny for the South, but Houston will still be playing thinking they have a chance to win that division. Chargers-Broncos, Dolphins-Patriots. That's for division seeding stuff at 425. And then, of course, 820, you got the big one there with the Ravens and the Steelers. Winner wins the North. Loser goes home. And if you want to entertain another name into the Giants coaching sweepstakes, does the loser of that game Sunday night, does that organization and that coach finally maybe decide maybe it's best we go our separate ways? John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, you never know. Stranger things have happened in sports. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning for our Saturday program at 9 a.m., first one of 2026. Thanks to Ray and thanks to Tom. Jake and Ty are up next. They'll lead you into the Knicks. Enjoy your Friday, everybody. We'll talk to you later with the Rangers. Grass is saying so long on ESPN New York.
FanDuel Friday is turning it up with NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern, FanDuel is dropping limited-time specials to get you in the zone. Boost, bonuses, surprises, all designed to bring that Friday